All right, let's try this again. We had some technical difficulties. Let's see. Hi.
Hi, okay, did it work? It's
Yes, it did. How are you?
good. How are you?
Good. Let's give people just a couple more minutes to join in and then we can get started.
Okay, is the camera position okay? It's taking a couple seconds to come up on my screen, so I can't see it.
Yes, you're in the frame. You're a little laggy, but I can see you and hear you fine.
Okay.
Can everyone else see Lexi okay? You could let me know in the comments. There you go. You look normal to me now. No more frozen.
It took a couple seconds there.
How are you today? How's your week been?
It's been good. It's been busy, but good busy. So yeah, how about yours?
Good. Also just finished up with a couple clients.
Yeah. I'm so glad we could do this tonight though.
Me too. So this is something that's been coming up in my practice a lot. I think especially as it's getting warmer and as COVID is kind of like decreasing, right? People are starting to go out with friends more, prepare for the summer. And so I think that there's been a lot of talk about like body image and feeling confident and wanting to diet and exercise and, get fit, get right. So thank you for joining me today to talk about this.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's such an important topic because I think, there's a big difference between like trying to be healthy, trying to do what's best for your body, trying to look and feel confident, and then also kind of doing something that's going to take away from your body, take away from
Mhm.
kind of deprive yourself, which can have some like negative consequences that we want to definitely steer clear of and is going to work against us in the end.
For sure. So what's the difference, right, between kind of saying like, I want to eat more salads or eat more veggies and having like a disordered relationship with food?
Yeah, so I think like the two biggest things to keep in mind with it is number one, like sustainability, right? Like if you're going to do something, is it sustainable? Is it something
Hmm.
not just now, but like lifelong? Because that can often be a good signal that it is like a healthier thing that you're doing.
Okay.
Also, like sustainable habits are going to equal consistent habits, right? So that's where we're going to get that long-term benefit in terms of just your health and like healthy weight management and things like that
Mm,
long run. The other thing to keep in mind is it can be a slippery slope, right? Like 30, I think the
totally.
30% of people who kind of go on diets somehow develop disordered eating habits. And it's so important to keep in mind that like this can occur on a spectrum, right? It's not just like
Uh-huh.
or no eating disorder. Disordered eating is definitely a spectrum, and it can be something as little as feeling guilty when you're going out to eat or feeling like because you went out to eat that you need to exercise the next day.
Totally.
And that's something that's not really going to serve you, not just in the short term, but in the long term too, because it's going to get in the way of your life and it's not going to be comfortable or ideal. And it brings on anxiety and it's just not going to be helpful.
I think you hit it like right on the head earlier when you said, we go into with these good intentions, right? Like we think that we're doing something that's good for our body. We see it all over the media, right? Like be healthy, eat less, eat more greens, eat clean. And then it ends up being really unhealthy, not just for our bodies, but our minds. And it's tricky. It's
Mm.
tough to navigate.
Exactly. And when it starts getting in the way of like your everyday life or starts inhibiting you being able to go out to like with friends because you feel guilty about like the restaurant that they're going to,
Mm-hmm.
or you feel like you have to like exercise that day so you're skipping something like social, or maybe you're skipping out of work early when you have a big project due or something like that. That's when we start to see that like the relationship with food and exercise kind of begins to get a little bit blurred and it's not as healthy. Whereas if we're doing things like increasing our fruits and vegetables but still able to like listen to our hunger cues and
Mm-hmm.
having a plan to exercise regularly, but still making sure that we're resting, like when life gets stressful or
Yeah.
like that's when we kind of have a little bit more positive relationship with these goals that we have set for ourselves.
Uh-huh. So some warning signs it seems like are kind of like avoiding social situations, right? Because it's going to impact like your diet or your exercise routine. Definitely feeling guilty feeling like you need to kind of like earn your calories.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like too, just that like stress, right? Is it bringing on stress? Is it taking up a lot of brain space, right? Like,
Mhm.
is it taking a lot of time for you to kind of like plan your exercise, or if you have to skip exercise, is it kind of like overwhelming you, or are you taking 30 minutes to figure out what you want to cook for dinner because you can't decide between like that hamburger, which you really want, and that like salad that you feel like is the good option?
Uh-huh. How about like cutting out food groups, right? Like saying, I'm not going to eat any dessert until the summer. What do you think about that?
Oh, are you there? Sorry. Um, yeah. So again, I think that kind of comes back to the sustainability, right? Like I
Mhm.
can in like the short term and in small doses be something that can work towards like a healthier lifestyle and can
Uh,
into a healthy lifestyle. If it's kind of like, I'm used to eating dessert every night and I'm going to skip dessert tonight, right? Like I think that can be at a healthy level. But I think when it starts to get to the point where you're kind of like getting really anxious over eating dessert again, or feeling really stressed by, oh my gosh, I want to have a brownie and now I feel like I can't have a brownie, and that
uh,
anxiety. Or also too, when you find that you can't control yourself around those foods, that's where it's kind of like can be start being signs that we're starting to develop this unhealthy relationship with food, because we're kind of viewing it as all or nothing. Like I can either have it in my diet and like have a lot of it, or I can't have it at all, and that can be hard and not helpful. So I always suggest with my clients really avoiding kind of eliminating all food groups, because it's 2021, good food is all around, a good thing, and we should be able to enjoy it, but we can eat it in moderation, and that's okay.
that's so true. I think too, right? Like we get in this cycle with the all or nothing thinking. And, you know, like if you don't have any control around dessert, you think the answer is to control yourself and have no dessert. But it actually just like makes it worse, right? And it makes it harder for you to eat things in moderation because now this food has become like a bad food.
Exactly. And how I always explain to my clients is like, once we tell ourselves like we can't have something, like we're only human. We are on it more. So typically, like if you want to make a healthy change out of it, all right, maybe we start with, rather than cutting it out completely, maybe you look at how often you're doing it and you cut it down a little bit by like 20,
Mm-hmm.
40% could be a good step to take, where, all right, I'm maybe being healthier, but at the same time, like I'm still including it in my diet. It doesn't feel like this all or nothing approach. And I can still hang out with my friends, have these foods with my friends, not feel like it's forbidden food that's going to, like you said, often create this cycle of
Mm-hmm.
all or nothing approach.
For sure. And it's like, anyone in high school, don't date the bad boy. And what do? You want to date him, right? Like the second your parents tell you you can't do something, that's the first thing you want to go do. And I think a lot of the time, like it's that same game in our mind too when we become restrictive.
Exactly. And I think like one of the most dangerous things out there, or like the most dangerous ideas, is like kind of cutting out the carbs, decreasing the carbs, right? Because that's something that our body needs. It thrives off of it. It works better, including carbs in our diet. And
Uh-huh.
just like we can't go the rest of our life without eating carbs. Like that just work for anybody. I mean, maybe there's one person out there it works for. That could be possible, but that's where like just avoiding that all or nothing approach is so important.
Yeah. So I did get a question earlier this week about like what can you do in terms of food for gut health? How do you think that that kind of fits into like having a healthy relationship with food?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. And I think that kind of comes into play with signs that maybe like your relationship with food or your relationship with exercise could be off in a way. And, there's the signs that we typically think about, like feeling like hangry all the time when we're not eating,
Mhm.
feeling hungry, or maybe being tired all the time. But then there's the signs that we don't think about. So oftentimes, like if we're not getting enough, or if we're not getting enough of like a breakdown of nutrients or different nutrients like carbs, for example, our body starts to kind of function differently. So our digestion
Mhm.
system can actually run slower, causing like more bloating and gas. Or we could like start missing our period, or we start to kind of get into that overthinking or obsessing about food because the brain just doesn't have enough energy. So it starts to think more rigid and less flexibly than we typically would when like our body's optimally fueled. So I think in terms of like going back to your question about like gut health, like really eating regular meals, eating like mixed meals with all different
Mm-hmm.
can really help kind of prime our digestion and keep it running optimally and keep us feeling comfortable all throughout the day and in these social situations that we're still going to be taking advantage of.
Awesome. Love it. How about exercise? So, like, this is something that comes up with my clients when I first suggest that maybe they're not having the healthiest relationship with exercise. People are shocked, right? Because we are just told exercise is good, right? You should exercise. The more you exercise, the better. It's good for your heart, it's good for your mind. When does that become unhealthy?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think you bring up a really great point, right? Because oftentimes when we're exercising a lot, when we're exercising every day, we're seen as like being the committed one, like this,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, you're doing what everyone tells us we should be doing, right? And I think, you know, exercise and exercise daily could potentially be a part of a healthy lifestyle. But again, it's that, is that flexibility there? You know, is there this attachment? Can you wake up one day with a plan to exercise, decide, you know what, I'm just not feeling it, and feel good about that? And I think
Mm-hmm.
most important thing, how flexible are you, and is it getting in the way of like other aspects of health, right? So we talked before about like, you know, social health, like our job, like our health at our job, right? Like, is it getting in the way of these other aspects of health that are really important for just an overall healthy lifestyle?
For sure.
Or is it not getting in the way and we can be flexible about it and, you know, do it when we want and take rest days when we want and feel really good about it? Then that's more representative of a healthy relationship with food. Or
Yeah, with exercise. I saw someone in the comments earlier say, you know, they'd been exercising every day since January, and what really changed for them was that they started exercising because they feel good, right, when they exercise instead of wanting their body to look a different way. And I think that that's like such a game changer for people when we finally start to exercise because we love ourselves and we know that it feels good and we deserve to feel good instead of like from a place of punishment.
exactly. And I think to that point, like doing the exercise, because like choosing the exercise based on like what we enjoy and what makes us feel good, rather,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is the exercise that burns the most calories, or this is the exercise that like I get the most intensity out of, things like that. Like when we kind of start being able to listen to our body and just doing what helps feel good in the moment and feel good for us on that day, and not like living by these rigid rules of what exercise needs to look like on
Yeah,
every.
totally. Someone sent me a DM earlier this week saying that they kind of want to get to that place of enjoying exercise, but they're having a hard time finding exercise classes that are like body positive, and that make them feel good for being there instead of kind of, you know, shaming them into working out harder. Do you have any recommendations for how people can find like good supportive workout classes?
Yeah, so one thing that a couple of my clients have found is that there's a lot of good personal trainers, especially that you can find on Instagram, that are more
Mm-hmm.
focused intuitive exercise approach. So even searching like the hashtags, I think it's intuitive exercise or enjoyable movement. There's one other one that I'll try and think of, but I think that's a great place to look to start,
Okay.
because I think it's harder, you know, I think they're out there, but like looking locally, it might be kind of trying out different instructors, you know, like going to different places and kind of trying it out to get a sense of like the instructor's personality and the instructor's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like if you're on Instagram, like the hashtags are a great thing to search for,
So
because
true.
even if it's just a part of what they do, they'll be putting it on a lot of their posts. So it'll be more easily accessible to just find them, even if they just have.
Yeah, and I think too, especially right now, like everyone's working out virtually for the most part. And even people who are going back to in person, like we've all kind of gotten to explore what it's like to work out virtually. And you can do things from your own house on your own time if you find somebody who you like online.
Exactly, exactly. I also think like some like yoga studios can be great options where it's more like slower, enjoyable movement. They also have like the power option, so that can always be like a good place to look as well, where you might find things. But I really think it probably depends on like the brand and like the storefront and kind of how they're running their business, and in terms of how they look at exercise, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You mentioned intuitive exercise, and I think we could do like a whole another live on intuitive exercise, intuitive eating.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's something that, is definitely big in the therapy space, but a lot of people not in the mental health or like dietitian world, it's not, a term that we use too often. And it's something that I think people are really interested in learning more about and learning, how can I really tune into my body and figure out what's healthy and good for me.
Exactly. And I think it's something I've been so happy to see it really gain a lot of attention like over the past like 6 months to a year, which is great. I feel like 2021 is going to be the year where we stop listening to all the outside stuff and start listening to
Yes.
what we need in the moment and what our body needs. And I think that's an awesome thing. And I think, like you said, to your point, like a lot of people are really, learning more about this or hearing the term and being like, wait, I want to know more about that. So I think
Uh-huh.
like a great live to do as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I know
And
this is also kind of like another topic, right? But like, what do you do when you realize like, oh crap, they're talking about me. Like maybe I do have a little bit of something going on here with my food and exercise. What are some kind of like basic next steps that people could take?
yeah, so I think that's a great step. Again, kind of using Instagram as a resource. There's a lot of great accounts out there that are talking about kind of how you need to fuel your body, what it looks like to be adequately fueling your body, what it looks like to have like sustainable, healthy habits.
Mhm.
I'm stuck in that like diet cycle. And then two, kind of navigating, are you feeling like you can do it on your own? Are you feeling like, okay, this would be pretty easy to do and you know what you need to do? Or are
Yeah.
you like it would be really hard to do, or you just have no idea what you're doing? And then that's where I think you should reach out for professional help, because not professional help, but just for support from a professional,
Hmm.
because that it can take, with the right support, it can be so much more of an efficient process with kind of
Yeah.
to be, rather than trying to navigate it on your own, because there's a lot of bad information. There's a lot of good information. There's also a lot of bad information out there. So I think kind of reaching out for some help or looking at some helpful accounts on Instagram can be great places to start.
So true. Diet culture is sneaky, right? And there's lots of people who are pretending to, promote health and kind of perpetuating bad ideas.
And a lot of my clients, that kind of navigate like this journey or whatever you want to call it in different types of ways. Some of them reach out to dietitians first, some of them reach out to therapists first.
Hmm.
Some of them get the support of both. Some of them are able to kind of figure it out with the support of one, and
Yeah.
and one thing I think that comes up with a lot of my clients is, okay, like when we know what to do and we're ready to do it and we're there, and then if like more anxiety or stress comes up from like including these foods back in our diets or taking more rest days or whatever it
Hmm.
than we expect, and like how to navigate that in the moment. And that's where the therapy can be such an essential piece. So I would love to one day do a live, especially for my clients, so I can like take it home to like your top tips of like how to deal with the stress or anxiety, food related stress or anxiety, or exercise related stress or anxiety in the moment.
For sure. And I think that's definitely something that we work on in therapy. It's just like learning coping skills and then also unlearning a lot of the messages that we learned about diet culture. Where did we learn it from? Where did we learn about like our self-worth and what it means to be confident and what it means to be, deserving of love or deserving to be happy in your body or to allow yourself to like skip exercise and go to happy hour, right?
Exactly.
And so it requires a lot of active unlearning in that process, but it's totally doable. And I think you're right. Like getting support is definitely the easiest and most efficient way to do that. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to go through it alone, and it's so much easier when you have people on your team.
Exactly. Because, like you said, it can be so hard to unlearn these things, so hard to kind of shift the mindset away from kind of like weight focused health to like
Uh-huh.
focused health, which is so much more important and matters so much more than like the weight, which is what we've been taught in the past,
Yep.
unfortunately. we really have to kind of relearn this. And it can be hard to navigate. So having that support, there's no reason to do it on your own. So
yeah. If people wanted to work with you, what would be like some next steps they should take?
yeah, definitely. So I have a few slots open in April that just opened. So I'm so excited about that.
Awesome.
Follow me on Instagram at Be Balanced Dietitian. The link to I offer a free consult with anyone who's interested to work with me. So it's kind of 30 minutes where we kind of figure out, what are you looking for, what are your concerns are, what are your goals, and like how I can help you. So that link to that is on my Instagram profile, and that's usually the best step to take.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me today. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we could do this, and I'm glad that we were able to navigate that beginning part because I know it can always be a little difficult. So
yes, thank you to anyone who stuck with us through the technical difficulties.
Exactly. I can't wait to do this again.
Okay, bye.
Bye.